to Two Cheers, One Chat. We are your hosts, Derry Cox,
Rudolph Thurman.
Thank you so much for joining us again. I just want to first say thank God for allowing us to do this again, to come back to share our opinions and some support and some help whenever we can. Again, thank you for all the support that for those of you who have reached out to us and regarding our first episode. Thank you so much for your feedback. We do appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. How are you, Ru?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
I feel great today. I definitely have to start very much just like how you did. I gotta thank God for everything, for waking us up this morning, letting us see another day, giving us another opportunity to be here today and be in the chairs chatting.
Yeah, we love to be in the chairs.
Yeah. But, just happy to be here. Praise God.
I know we did mention that the next episode would have been on relationship, but we're pushed that a little further along the line. We will definitely get back to that. Today, what we're going to touch on is abuse. And we hear it, people talk about it a lot, and we see news reports of different type of abuse, but we want to share our opinions or suggestions, and kind of like open the door to allow people to know that you can talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be sharing our opinions, like I said, and suggestions. So just want to say what abuse is. And I'm a notes person, right? I always make notes. I think it's the writer in me that always writing stuff.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So what is abuse, right? It is a pattern of behavior used by one person to gain and maintain power and control over another. And I know normally when we hear about abuse, we always first think about physical abuse, right? But that's not the only one. There are 6 types of abuses. And so they're physical, of course. There's sexual abuse, verbal or emotional, also mental or psychological, also finance and economics.
Yes.
Those are all. Did I name 6, or is there more?
Sounds like a little more, but that just lets you know that there are so many different forms of abuse, and we're gonna tackle that. We're going to, like any other time, give our opinions, our views on it, and advice for anybody that may be going through any kind of forms of abuse, because at the end of the day, no matter which one it is, abuse is wrong.
So we're going to start off with the physical abuse, which is like punching and kicking and slapping, and that's one. Those are a few types of physical abuse. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, definitely want to say that with physical abuse, I first want to start off by saying nobody should ever feel like they have the right to put their hands on anybody. Man, woman, like, keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah.
It's you have to be able to communicate effectively. Say what you want to say. Don't let your anger get in the way where you feel like you're not getting your way and you're going to put your hands on somebody. You should never do that. You should never feel like you have to overpower anybody, slap them, kick them, like all of those examples, that you use. All of those things is wrong.
Yeah, keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, and you will get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
It's
very serious.
Yeah, it's very serious. Very, very serious.
But just to point out that, abuse is a traumatic situation. Like, it could affect you one way or the other, and that's why we thought it was so important to talk about abuse today, especially with COVID-19, right? That just happened, the pandemic, where a lot of people were scared to stay home with their partners, or
Yeah.
it was like most reported, according to the stats that I've read somewhere. But it's that during this time there were a lot of domestic violence in it was so disheartening to me.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, no one should put their hands on no one, right? And especially when it comes to domestic violence, we spoke about that before and how I'm totally against it. Keep your hands to yourself.
To yourself.
Bottom line. Also, sexual abuse, and this is the huge one, right?
Yeah.
It impacts both men and women and children and elderly and a lot of people. It doesn't matter the age.
Well, I will say this, right? People need to know that sexual abuse is real, it exists, and it's also abuse that is a problem. People think that sexual abuse only occurs with strangers. You're going up to somebody and you're grabbing them, or the person's getting raped. You can experience sexual abuse with people who are together. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, the person has to respect your body, right? So if something is not wanted by you, then you shouldn't take it upon yourself to just, I'm just going to go do something, or I'm just going to just go grab this person, or I'm just going to physically touch them because you have whatever urges that you have. So sexual abuse is 100% wrong. We don't stand for it, and it's traumatizing for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people who are uncomfortable within themselves today because of sexual abuse. That all ties into things like molestation. Mm-hmm. You have some people who are afraid to speak out on that. They may have went through a traumatizing experience, like when they was young, like with a family member or whoever. Like I don't always want to say uncles, but it just seems like uncles really get like a bad rap, like when it comes to that. Like when you hear like a child like gets like sexually abused. But sexual abuse, it doesn't only just happens to to kids. It happens to adults as well.
Yeah, I have had like I wrote in my book, it is something that I have had to relive in order to tell my story in my book. And we'll share, both our books at a later time. We'll get more into that. But it's something that affected me. And so I didn't even know that I was carrying. It's something, it's a pain that goes through, like for the victims. You take that with you for years, right? And for me, I didn't even know how much it impacted me until I decided to write about it. Mm. And I had to relive that. So it's disturbing. It's something that you carry with you throughout your life. But for me, I got the release when I decided to write about my experience of sexual abuse. Yeah. And that helped me. So that's one way of getting help, for yourself, is to write about it and let it out and cry about it. Because while I was writing my book, I was crying because I was reliving that situation. And no one should have to go through that. We tend to hold it in and keep it with us for many, many years. And my advice to anyone that has gone through that kind of trauma in their life, just speak to someone about it. If you don't feel like speaking to someone about it because you feel like you're going to be judged, you can write a book too, but you can also write, in your diary, express yourself in there and release it and let that pain flow through your pen. I think that you need to, anybody that's been through any kind, man, woman, the children are, when you're younger, you're scared to tell someone because someone may have threatened you that if you talk about it, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. You still need to talk about it. You still need to talk about it. Don't carry it with you throughout your life. It affects your relationship. One way or the other, you kind of kind of view everybody in that same just like your abuser. You think that everybody can be like that, and so you're less trusting of people, and it truly can affect you. So it's always important. It is important to talk about it, or like I said, write about it. We need to make sure that people are equipped to deal with stuff like that. And there's a lot of resources out there that you can find help if you're any one of the, as we go down the list, and you're able to identify with what we're saying, that you can get help for any one of these abuses.
Yes, awesome with what you're saying. You also mentioned that some people get fearful. I want to touch on that. The fear is put into you by the person that's doing that to you, right? Because you're afraid of what they're gonna do next, right? Are they gonna hit you some more? Are they gonna touch you some more? Or so they just put this fear in you. But you need to know that an exit does exist. You need to know that you don't have to stand for that. You don't have to tolerate that. We live in a time today where there are so many different sources that you can go to, to get help. Go online, right? There's numbers there that are provided. You can call, tell them what you're going through, and get that help.
Yeah.
But to sit there and live in it and say, hey, I don't see a way out, and I have to just remain in this kind of life and with this kind of experience, you don't have to. Do something about it. So for anybody that's going through any of that, like, just do something about it. Like, stand up for yourself.
Right.
Respect yourself, and let that person know that, like, no, I don't have to go through this at all.
And there are different types of sexual abuse. I just want to break it down. There's rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault, inappropriate touch anywhere, non-consensual masturbation of either or both persons, non-consensual sexual penetration or attempted penetration of the vagina, anus, or mouth, any sexual activity that the person lacks the capacity to consent to. Inappropriate looking, sexual teasing, or sexual harassment, sexual photography or forced use of pornography or witnessing of sexual acts, or indecent exposure. These are all types of sexual abuse. For those of you who don't know what the different types are, those are it right there. It just shows, like, there's so many categories. I mean, for those of us that go to work, if you think that you don't know what sexual harassment is, you will get reminded at your job. If you're just so casual, like, with different things that you do, if you think that you could say things verbally or touch people in any kind of way, you're going to find out. They bring you in that office and they sit you down and, like, let me tell you, there's a sexual harassment claim on you. And you're going to be looking there clueless, but you're going to get reminded that that's not something that you should do. And then you have to fix your way. Yeah. And there's a lot of that going on sometimes in the workplace. I know that now people are home and, it's less maybe. Yeah. But it happens. It happens also in the workplace. It happens a lot. But, hopefully things will get better. Yeah. And we get some people who respect and know their limits and know that there's certain things you do not do. Yes. And, I know there's instances where we're talking about, like, man and a woman in a sense, right?
Yes.
Where women sometimes tend to not tell the truth or try to, because maybe, maybe because they don't like someone, a man, for instance, and like,
Right.
I'm going to get him in somewhere, some shape or form, just to get back at him because of something.
Right.
Those we have to be careful with,
Very.
but we can't excuse when other people,
Or actually going through it.
yeah,
Right.
we can't excuse that as well. I'm just gonna tell you, bad people that don't, like, just don't do it. Like, just don't do it, right? There's a lot more that we can probably speak on when it comes to that.
Mhm.
But the consensus here is that we're trying to bring awareness to abuse of any form.
Yeah.
There's okay, let's move on to like verbal and emotional abuse, right?
Yes, let's do that.
For me, verbal abuse is something else. I'm telling you, it could make you feel like crap.
Of course.
Okay? There are words that would rip your heart out, right? Especially if you're hearing it from people that you care about, and then they degrade you, or they say something like, you look this way, or you'll never be this, or you're never, you're too fat, or you're ugly, and that's another. Those are form of abuse, right?
It is, because I also want to say, like you said in the beginning, the main abuse that most people think about when it comes to abuse is physical. The reason that verbal is just as bad is because words sometimes it just sit with you. So a lot of the things that are said to you it just stays there, and it's long term, right? So it's that damaging to the point where you actually start to believe it, even if some of the things that people are saying to you are not true.
Yeah.
But you're hearing it repeatedly, right? So somebody, like you said, somebody's telling you like something about your weight, or they're telling you something about your intelligence, and even though you never looked at yourself like that, you're like, damn, it's coming from a person that I care about. It's coming from a person that I love, and it's like, and it just sits in you, and it just like really destroys you, and it could take away things from you, like as a person. It could take away your confidence, and you just start like not to believe in so much because the words are that powerful.
Yeah, that's going to be one of our episodes.
Power of words.
The power of words. Also for the kids, that we say to them, your dad ain't it, and you ain't gonna be it. I'm not gonna say the word,
right?
But, those things go a very far way, and it hurts. It does hurt, and you kind of go through life with hearing that in your head. Well, my dad wasn't anything, and I'm not going to be anything. Because what? My mom told me that.
Yeah, and we got to be careful with that, parents, because that goes with learning how to separate what the parents is going through and keeping the kids out of that, right? So, because you may have a feud with your partner, it is not your right to pull a child to the side, an innocent child that has nothing to do with it. Pull that child to the side and say, oh, let me tell you about your father, or let me tell you about your mother, oh, they're not this, they're not that. Like, as a child grows, they're gonna know or get to know their parents for who they are. It's not for you to plant no negative seed. And when you do stuff like that, you thinking that you're helping the child. You're not helping the child. What's going to happen with any child that's growing up, as they get knowledge, they're going to resent you. They're going to resent you, because if they grow a really strong relationship with that parent that you was kicking down, they're going to look at you like, wow, like, how can you do this as a person, right? Like, did you think that was gonna win me over in any kind of way? Like I didn't have nothing to do with y'all feud. I'm still gonna love my mother. I'm still gonna love my father. Don't try to paint this negative image like to me.
So a part of like where we talk about the communication part with
Yeah.
you and your mother and father, like separate the two and you know, love that child and show that child love. It's kind of like the same thing. So that's, you know, like for me, when it comes to, I've been through years of also verbal abuse that sting me. Like I said before, right? It stings the heart. It
Yeah.
rips at you, especially coming from the people that you love, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying this thing, and then you feel like, I'm so glad that where I am right now. You know, I've grown and the strength I have, and I know that while I wouldn't say that that person is the worst in the world, you know, I forgive. You know, I wouldn't forget because it helped for me to become the person I am
Yeah,
today.
it shaped you.
Right, yeah. So it's all experiences. I'm very grateful for my experiences. But for those of you who like to say degrading things to people, especially the people that you look in your face and say, I love you. Like, just watch your words. You know, those things, it rips at people piece by piece, inch by inch. And eventually that person is going to start to neglect you. You know what I'm saying? It's going to that is going to keep pinching away at them and hurting them, and every day they're going to look at you in a different light. Just be careful what you say to people.
Yes.
You know, the thing is, treat people how you want to be treated. You know, if you want to be treated well, you want to be respected, that's what you have to do for others.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
Not being a doormat to anyone.
Not at all.
You know, you set your boundaries and let people know who they're dealing with. This is how I am, and all for part of communication as well.
Yes.
You know, so it is important that you respect others. The main thing, the bottom line is respecting each other, respecting each other's space, respecting people to not touch them inappropriately, respecting people to not say anything to them or try to degrade them or try to sting them or make them feel bad.
Yeah.
You know, there are situations where you can walk away from.
Yes.
You don't need to be like that.
Yes,
you know,
you do.
you can be as angry as you want to be.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's not worth hurting someone else because you feel hurt,
Yes. Yes.
right?
And that goes with, I want to connect that like with control. And what I mean connect with the walking away part, right? So sometimes situations can get like so heated and you just feel like you got to respond like in a certain way, like with the physical abuse and stuff like that. People can't control themselves. So when they don't get their way, they throw like these little tantrums. What? And then they put their hands on you, and there's so many different options. Like, learn how to walk away. Like, learn how to walk away. Like, because it's from the moment you raise your hand and you put it against somebody, you can't rewind that. You strike that person is never going to look at you the same. They're going to be in shock first, right? They're going to be in shock first. Like, I can't believe that you even did that. That first time that you do that, they're going to be so shocked that you did that. And you can say sorry so many times. Maybe somewhere down the line, that person might forgive you. Not excusing the action at all. The best thing is keep your hands to
Yeah, it's
yourself.
important to keep your hands to yourself.
Keep your hands to yourself.
And that goes for both male and female.
Yes.
There are women that want to, you know, they want to use their hands because they're angry.
Yeah.
You know, keep your hands to yourself. That's important that you do that. And what do we have next? Abuse, we have mental or psychological. And this one happens when one partner, through a series of action or words, wear away at the other's sense of mental well-being and health. That's a whole other thing, a whole other topic. It's going to be really, really interesting.
Yes, it will.
I want to talk about child abuse. That is also a form of domestic violence.
Yes.
It can include psychological, sexual, or physical mistreatment of a child. This can be done by the parent or any caregiver of the child. It may be something that is done to or something withheld from the child that can cause some type of harm. Any child could be the victim of abuse. Children that are hard of hearing have been found to be at higher risk of abuse, and also people with disabilities may also be at greater risk. I'm just going to give a few examples of both, like the child's abuse, beating, hitting, kicking, slapping, choking, strangling, pulling hair, shaking, throwing, dropping, biting, scratching, or pinching, forcing the child to eat or swallow dangerous things like spices or soap. A lot of craziness be happening out there, right? Also, another child neglect. That can be complicated, and that has different categories as well, like lack of education, keeping a child home from school, emotional neglect by not providing support and nurturing, lack of medical care, physical neglect, which include basic necessities like a safe home and healthy food. Supervisory neglect is when the parents ignores things their child is doing that can cause them harm. Abandoning or leaving your child alone for long periods of time. When it comes to the children, that's where my heart is the biggest. I have a serious problem. I will fight someone for the kids, right? My mission that is coming up in probably a couple of months, where I'll be traveling to see the best. Once we can actually travel and stuff to different parts of the world to help the children. Mostly the children. That's where my heart is. That's where my passion is. And any form of abuse when it comes to children is something I will fight for. Like, you're not allowed to. I don't care where they are. I don't care which part of the world they are. I don't even care who your parents are. Like, I am truly against abuse against the kids, right? Because they're so sweet and they're so innocent. And why would anyone want to hurt the children? Like, I will never understand that. Even sometimes we as parents get caught up in our world. Like, the kids are too much for us. Well, why'd you make them? Did you not think about it? Did you not think that we grow, like child and teenager to an adulthood, and your parents have to deal with you, right? So pushing them away or pulling their hair or watch what you're saying to them as well. Those things hurt. Those things belittle, and it carries through, right? So that's all a part of abuse. Like, you can turn it and twist it around as much as you want, but that's also a part of abuse. Getting angry with the child because you're busy, maybe in your phone or you're watching TV or whatever, and you're like, "Why are you bothering me? Go sit down there," and stuff like that. That hurts. That hurts. And I want people to check themselves. And we have those little naughty kids. I wouldn't say bad, because I know what the meaning of bad is. They're naughty. They sometimes don't think too clearly. They see something on TV or whatever, and they just want to act out and be like that person or whatever. But you have to teach them. Right. It's what you're teaching them. Right. It's what you're trying to mold them into. Right. But at the end of the day, they still have their mind of their own. But we have to be careful how we treat them, right? Verbally abusive. Curse words, this, the other. It's not necessary. There's so many ways to speak to your child. We know sometimes maybe they like a little fancy sneakers, or they like games or whatever. We use those forms as like, if you don't act right, your privileges get taken away. There's certain things that you can do. It's not about you pulling their hair and you're slapping them and you're kicking them and you're throwing things at them. I was guilty because I had fling a remote one time. Guilty, of those things. But I grow and I learn, and I was like, it's kind of like the state of mind at that time when I fling the remote. So we do have to check ourselves. We do have to know that, how we're treating the kids go with them throughout their life. And we have to pause reflect. That's what I say, self-reflection.
Self-reflect.
All the time. Reflect on self and see what you're doing. And sometimes you keep doing the same thing over and over. So why this child doesn't listen? Well, maybe if you try a different approach, maybe they'll listen.
Get a different result.
You'll get a different result. Exactly. So don't neglect your children. Don't leave them for long hours in the house. Because you want to go party. Don't give them those cold medicine syrup so they can go to sleep, so you can go to the party and all this extra craziness. I mean, find a babysitter.
Just find a different way to just even if it's frustrating to you sometimes, it's like, find a different way to to communicate with your child, because a lot of us, if we're honest, we grew up like that way, where it's like that's how we were disciplined, right? Go sit down, so it's like, but the crazy thing as a child, you tell yourself, when I get older, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. But why are you telling yourself that? You're telling yourself that because you didn't like it.
Right.
Right? And then
you turn around and do the same thing.
And then you turn around and do the same
Get
thing. So, so then when you do it, it's like there was no cycle broken.
Right.
You just repeated the same
and they're gonna do the same thing.
And they're gonna do the same thing. So somebody has to step in and say, hey, you know what?
It stops here.
Yes, there's a different way. There's a different way to do this. So it's like, all right, you know what? Hitting is not gonna always be the format. Let me sit my child down that I made and talk to them. Right? Have conversations with your children. It's okay. And you might get that different result that we speak of. But if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. So it's like, well, let me talk with my child. Let me find out why they're doing certain things. Maybe they're trying to get your attention. Right?
That could be one.
And we don't sit there and think about that. So I also like when you talk about things that you can give your child. I mean, you're talking about games and stuff like that. Your child, we should know how to reward them also for the good that they do, right? So sometimes there's no reward. So it's like when they're doing certain things, okay, show them hey, you know what? I'm watching your behavior. Good job. Let them know that they're doing a good job. But because power of words, once again, if you just instilling in them, you're bad, they're not hearing anything good, right? Yeah. So that's what they're processing. We as being the adults now, we have to show the youth, we have to show the kids the way, right? The power is in our hands as the adults.
Yeah, and let's talk about adult abuse, right? Elder or adult abuse is usually done by family members, but it can also be done by caregivers, similar to children. Many of the elders are helpless. They have, they're more, it happens to them, right? You get physical abuse, mental, financial, and sexual or neglect, which can, like I just mentioned the physical abuse, inflicting pain or physical restraint, mental or emotional abuse, causing humiliation, degradation, or other emotional trauma, financial or material abuse, withholding or taking funds from the elderly people.
Yes.
Sexual abuse, any type of sexual contact with the elderly person that is not consensual. Lots of weirdness, neglect, without withholding care or medication.
This is very, very serious. This is just as touchy as stuff like with kids. Now with the elderly, it's very serious because in a lot of situations they're very defenseless.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking that you would want to harm
an elder.
Yeah. An elderly person.
Yeah.
Like, why would you? What possessed you? I've heard of stories where they've been sexually molested.
Yeah.
And they can't, like, what? Okay.
So yeah, I mean, most people would say like people who do that, like something is wrong.
Yeah.
Like here, like you're sick. Like you, like when you see stories on the news, you see like an elderly person that they're in the street, they're walking, whether they have a cane or they have like their
And
walker.
some crazy stuff.
Yeah, somebody just comes, boom, knocks them down, take like their purse, and it's like you have a grandfather, you have a grandmother too. Like if you turn on the news as a person that does that, and you saw that somebody did that to your relative, like can you look past that? Or do you just look at it like, well, it's not my family member, I don't care. Like, because God willing, you will get old too. Right?
Exactly.
And you gotta watch what you do. You're gonna get old too. So when you get up there in those ages where you're not as mobile and you're moving slow and stuff like that, like now you're gonna have to be watching your side and just hoping that ain't nobody gonna come and clothesline you, like and take anything from you. So like just like it's wrong.
Yeah,
no matter it's to stop. Like no matter.
Did we cover everything on abuse? Did you think there's anything else? Did I do 6 or did I miss something?
I feel like we did more than 6. I feel like we cover. I feel like we cover a lot. There's probably is other like things attached to like those, but we cover more than what I feel most people will probably like speak on.
Yeah.
And I feel like we did a great job.
Okay. I want to close with something because I wrote something, and I want to close with that. For those that are listening, watching, the first thing to do if you're in an abusive situation is to get away, if you can, right? So if you're a child, people with disability or an elderly person who is being abused by a caregiver, you need to tell someone right away. I'm not like ratting on the parents or, I'm not trying to do that, but you need to get help because it's not healthy. It affects you. It affects your well-being. It affects, we already listed a whole bunch of stuff, affects you mentally, right? So you have to be able to talk to someone. They are alternatives and you do have options, even if your abuser tells you that you do not, right? That is what they do, right? They will tell you, I'm going to hurt you if you tell anyone. You have to find the courage to find someone that you trust to tell, what happened or is happening to you. The abuser, they use their power and control to brainwash you into believing that you have no place to go and that nobody will believe you or help you, right? Comes back to like the relationship where they think you're making more money and you have nowhere to go. I bet you do.
Yeah. You do.
So those are like absolutely false things for people to think that, they control your entire life.
Yeah.
And because they may be making a little bit more money than you, that you have no other option but to stay with them. But there's always options.
Yes, there
right?
is.
Some people tend to stay in abusive relationship because they feel that there is no help out there. But this is not the case. There is help for anyone that wants it. There's always something there to help someone in any situation. You just have to look. Do some research for yourself. It's very important, sometimes you think that you need someone to always keep telling you what to do or share information. There's Google.
Yes.
And there's more than Google. Like you can figure it out. Like, go research, find what you want. But no matter what, if you're being abused, someone will help you. If you cannot get away from the person long enough to get help, you can contact someone online that can help, right? There are professionals that can get you help. You can work with individuals. There's a National Domestic Violence Hotline as well.
There is.
You can create a safety plan for yourself and you can work it out. The safety plan is also necessary if you have kids and need to figure out a way to get away from your abuser. Those are for domestic abuse people. There's help out there, and it doesn't matter if you were recently abused or if the abuse happened decades ago. For the decades ago, and then you don't have like no proof of anything that happened, that's stuck with you.
Yeah.
Like I said, write it down, write a book, tell your story,
Yes.
share your story to help other people, right? Experiences normally, tends to teach us things, and then with your experience, you share your experience with other people to help them. Don't keep it bottled up inside of you. You have your whole life ahead of you, right? You gotta live. You can't let people take that away from you.
Control you.
Yeah. The scars of domestic abuse can affect you for many years, like I've said, even after the abuse has stopped. But there are treatments. You can get help. All right, so I think that brings it to the end of this episode of what I titled it, Stop the Abuse.
Stop the abuse.
There that is. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to share? By the way, we got it. The 2 cheers, 1 chat mugs. We very
Check it out. Cheers, cheers. What?
And with our mugs, we have to drink some stuff.
Tastes good, don't it?
It's delicious.
Oh, man.
Even more delicious in the cups.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This brings us to the end of this episode. I think will be our second episode.
Yes, that's correct.
Of 2 Cheers, 1 Chat. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. Share with everybody. Okay, thank you so much again for supporting us. Anything else you want? Any closing words?
Well, you know how we close off.
All right.
Go ahead. How do we close? Who's
Who's chatting in the cheers?
We are.